Now we'll be discussing the multiple choice questions of the direct tax laws and international taxation mock test series paper 1, which is held in October 21, which is applicable for December 21 examination. So the first multiple choice question is case scenario 1. So they have provided a case scenario. Let us see what has been provided in this. The following information pertains to Mr. Devansh. He is an Indian citizen and a non-resident in India. So here he is an Indian citizen and non-resident in India for the previous year 2021. For the financial year 2021, Devansh is a NRI, non-resident Indian citizen. Now the information has been provided, that is dividend from MNO Limited. Dividend from MNO Limited. It's an Indian company. Gross dividend is 1,25,000 rupees. And interest on loan taken for purchase of shares of MNO Limited, that is 30,000 rupees the amount of interest on loan. Then interest on debentures of TLP Private Limited, subscribed in convertible foreign exchange. He has purchased these debentures in convertible foreign exchange, and the amount of interest is 1,20,000 rupees, and interest on loan taken for purchase of debentures is 20,000 rupees. Besides this, it has been provided that long-term capital gains on sale of debentures of XYZ Limited subscribed in convertible foreign currency. Long-term capital gains on sale of debentures of XYZ Limited subscribed in convertible foreign currency, that is 16,25,000 rupees the sale proceeds. Expenses incurred in connection with transfer is 7,000 rupees, and these debentures have been purchased on 10th of June 2004 for rupees 4,50,000, and the same has been reinvested, the sale proceeds of debentures, for purchase of listed shares of Indian company ABC Limited on 30th of April 21. Within 6 months from the date of transfer, investment has been made by him for purchase of shares of Indian company. Okay. Now they are asking, the cost inflation indexes have been provided. Based on the facts of the above case scenario, choose the most appropriate answer to question number 1 to 5. So first is, what is the amount of dividend in taxable in hands of Mr. Devansh, and at what rate MNO Limited is required to deduct tax at source on dividend income distributed to Mr. Devansh, ignore surcharge and cess. So fundamentally here, since he is a non-resident Indian and he will be governed by the provisions of chapter 12A, so it is an investment income. It is what? Investment income. And we have seen that in investment income, no deduction is allowed in respect of any expenditure allowance. So no deduction in respect of expenditure allowance from that investment income, and that investment income is chargeable to tax at rate of 20%. That investment income is chargeable to tax at rate of 20%. So here the dividend income, since it's an investment income, it will be amount which will be taxable in hands of Mr. Devansh will be 1,25,000 rupees. And they are also asking for the rate of tax deduction at source. And the tax will also be deducted at source at rate of say 20%. So rate of TDS will be 20% in this case. Then assuming that Mr. Devansh is a resident in India. Now they are asking, if Devansh is resident in India in previous year 2021, determine the amount of dividend taxable in hands of Mr. Devansh, and at what rate MNO is required to deduct tax at source on dividend income distributed to Mr. Devansh. So here the dividend gross amount is how much amount of dividend he has earned. He has earned 125 gross dividend. Now as we have seen that if any loan has been taken for investment in shares, interest will be allowed as deduction subject to maximum of 20% of the gross dividend. So here the deduction will be admissible to the extent of 25,000 rupees. Maximum interest deduction will be 25,000 rupees. So 1 lakh rupees will be taxable, and the tax is required to be deducted at source at rate of say 10%. The rate of TDS is under section 194 It is 10%. So answer in this case will be B. Then what is the amount of interest on debentures of TLP Private Limited taxable in hands of Mr. Devansh, and at what rate? Ignore surcharge and cess. Now here, we are having interest on debentures of TLP Private Limited. These debentures have been subscribed in convertible foreign exchange. So the provisions of section 115A will be applicable, and no expenditure will be allowed as deduction, and 115A subsection 1 clause A, the same is applicable, and 1,20,000 will be chargeable to tax, and the rate of tax will be 20% in such a case. So here 1,20,000 will be taxable, 1,20,000 will be taxable, and the same will be taxable at rate of 20% under section 115A subsection 1 clause A. Since the same has been, these debentures of an Indian company, the same has been acquired by him in convertible foreign currency. Then what would be the amount of capital gains taxable in hands of Mr. Devansh on sale of debentures of XYZ Limited if he opts for the provisions of Chapter 12A of the Income Tax Act? Ignore the effect of first proviso to section 48. So we have to ignore the effect of first proviso to section 48. So here no benefit of indexation will be available, and the amount of long-term capital gains will be, the full value of consideration is how much? Full value of consideration, here it is 16,25,000 less expenses on transfer. Expenses on transfer is 7,000 rupees. Then this will be the net consideration, 16 lakh and 18,000 is the net consideration, less cost of action. Cost of action is 4 lakh and 50,000 rupees. So this is the amount of long-term capital gain. Long-term capital gain will be how much? It will be 11 lakh and 68,000 rupees. 11 lakh and 68,000 rupees. Then you will get an exemption under section 115F, less exemption under section 115F. Since he has made investment within 6 months from the transfer of this foreign exchange asset, within a period of 6 months he has made an investment, we will get the benefit of 115F. Here investment has been made in shares of listed company, so less exemption under 115F. Net LTCG is 11,68,000. That is long-term capital gain upon the net consideration. What is the net consideration? 16 lakh and 18,000 into amount invested. Amount invested is 4 lakh and 50,000 rupees is the amount invested. Okay, 450 is the amount invested. 11,68,000. 11,68,000 divided by 16,18,000 into 4,50,000. So this is the exemption of amounting to 3,24,845 minus 1168. That works out to be 843,154. It is 843,154. So answer will be LTCG, and it is 843,155. It is 843 and 155 is the amount of the LTCG. Then assuming that Mr. Devansh is a resident in India, assuming that Mr. Devansh is resident in India for previous year 2021, what would be the amount of taxable capital gains on sale of debentures of XYZ Limited in hands of Mr. Devansh? So as we are aware that in debentures no benefit of indexation is available. No benefit of indexation. Okay. So here in case of Devansh, the taxable long-term capital gains will be 11,68,000 rupees, because he won't be getting any benefit of indexation and he won't be getting any sort of exemption here. So 11,68,000 rupees will be the amount of LTCG. 1168, which we have worked out, the amount of LTCG, which will be taxable in hands of Devansh in case he is a resident. So this particular question, it was dealing with the implications of chapter 12A as well as what chapter 12. Beside this, normal provisions of this, income tax will also there relating to the resident. So this we have discussed here, dealing with this particular case scenario 1. Now we will be discussing about the case scenario 2. Assessment of Shubh Associates, a partnership firm. Assessment of Shubh Associates, a partnership firm for assessment year 18-19 was made under section 143(3) on 28th of August 2020. 18-19 was made under 143(3) on 28th of August 2020. For AY 18-19, they have made the assessment. Scrutiny assessment was made, and the assessing officer made 2 additions to the income of the assessee. He has made 2 additions to the income of the assessee. Addition of rupees 4 lakh was on account under 40A1A due to non-furnishing of evidence of payment of TDS, and addition of 5.5 lakh on account of unexplained cash credits. Addition of 5.5 lakhs on account of, say, unexplained cash credits. Now here, the assessee contested the addition on account of unexplained cash credits in appeal to the Commissioner Appeals. Assessee has contended the addition on account of unexplained cash credits, in appeal to Commissioner Appeals. So he has contested this in Commissioner Appeals, and the appeal was decided in February 21 against the assessee. Here, the appeal has been decided in February 21 against the assessee. Now, on 12th April 21, the assessing officer issued a notice under 142(1). Issued a notice under 142(1) calling upon the Shubh Associates to file the return of income for assessment year 2021. They have, say, given a notice requiring the assessee to file the return of income for assessment year 2021. In response to the said notice, Shubh Associates furnished a return of loss. They furnished a return of loss and claimed to carry forward the business loss and unabsorbed depreciation in the return. Now they want to what? To claim carry forward of the business loss and unabsorbed depreciation. Now for AY 2021, the belated return, the same can be furnished up to 31/3/21. This belated return can be furnished up to 31/3/21, but here they have furnished the return on, say, in response to a notice on 12th April 21. Now here, if the return is furnished beyond the due date specified under 139(1), we cannot carry forward the business loss, but we can carry forward the unabsorbed depreciation. Besides this, Shubh Associates pays interest on loan at rate of 14% to its partner Anil and Ajay from 1/4/2020, being the date of loan, which amounts to rupees 7 lakhs in previous year 2021. The same was approved by modification to the partnership deed on 1/6/2020 with a retrospective effect. So here, this partnership deed was amended with effect from retrospective effect from 1/4/2020. So as we have seen that interest prior to partnership deed, it will be what? Disallowed, and then interest of subsequent period, what will happen? The same will be allowed at rate of 12% per annum. Now they have said that Anil is a non-resident. Anil, a non-resident, is a working partner, but Ajay is a resident who is not a working partner. Ajay is not a working partner. Anil, NR, is a working partner. Then further, Shubh Associates furnish the following information pertaining to installments paid to NBFC during the previous year 2021 towards loan borrowed from business. Now they have repaid these installments 1,20,000 in cash, 150 through account pay check, 150 again through Bheem, then 120 in cash, 50,000 in cash, and 3 lakh in cash. So these loan repayments have been made to NBFC. So this information has been provided here relating to the case scenario. Now the first question is, based on the facts of the above case scenario, based on the facts of above case scenario, choose the most appropriate answer to question number 6 to 10. Would Shubh Associates be entitled to carry forward business loss and unabsorbed depreciation claimed in the return? So since the return has been furnished, after due date under section 139(1), hence business loss cannot be carried forward. 139(3) read with section 88. So business loss cannot be carried forward. However, unabsorbed depreciation can be carried forward. So the answer in this case is yes, it can carry forward both business loss and unabsorbed depreciation. That is wrong. No, it cannot carry forward business loss and unabsorbed depreciation. That is also wrong. It can carry forward business loss. That is wrong. Yes, it can carry forward unabsorbed depreciation, but cannot carry forward what? The business loss. So this is the correct answer. Then next is, can Shubh and Associates apply for rectification under 154? They are asking they can apply for rectification under 154 or revision under 264 with respect to additions of 5.5 lakhs on account of unexplained cash credits. Now here, this issue of unexplained cash credits have been, say, considered by Commissioner Appeals. So in case if any matter has been considered in appeal, then in that particular circumstance, rectification is not possible. So 154, it is not possible, because it has been provided that if any subject matter is of appeal and same has been considered and decided in appeal, rectification is permissible in respect of matters other than those matters which have been so considered and decided. Similarly, revision under section 264 is also not permissible in respect of the matters where the order has been made subject of appeal to Commissioner Appeals or the appellate tribunal. Then in that particular circumstance, revision is also not permissible. So it can apply for revision, that is not correct. It cannot apply for revision, that is correct, but can make an application for rectification, that is not correct. It can apply for revision but cannot make application for rectification, that is not correct. Answer is it cannot. It can neither apply for revision before Commissioner under 264 nor can make an application for rectification. The answer here is, when the matter has been considered and decided in appeal, neither revision nor rectification remedy is permissible to him. Then, where would any penalty is leviable for installments received by NBFC? Now, since NBFC has received installments, now here they have given a loan and now they are receiving the installments in cash, then a circular has been issued that each installment will be regarded as a separate transaction. So we cannot aggregate these installments to find out the violation. Then penalty would be levied in case if the installment amount exceeds rupees 2 lakhs. So in this case, cash installment in one case has exceeded rupees 2 lakhs, that is on 30th of September. So penalty will be levied on the NBFC. So here answer will be, would penalty would be leviable? Yes, penalty would be leviable. And what is the amount? That is equal to the amount of installment which has been accepted in cash. That is 3 lakh rupees has been accepted in cash. So this penalty will be leviable, and that penalty will be imposed by Joint Commissioner. So no penalty is leviable, that is wrong. Yes, penalty is leviable rupees 3 lakhs under 271 DA, and it can be imposed by Joint Commissioner. So this is correct answer. 590 aggregation will not be there because each installment will be regarded as what? A separate transaction. Yes, penalty is leviable for 3 lakhs under 271 DA and can be imposed by income tax authority. That is not correct. It can be imposed by the Joint Commissioner. So the violation of the provisions of section 269 ST, the same will attract a penalty here, and that penalty will be imposed by Joint Commissioner. Now, would tax is required to be deducted at source on payment of interest to Mr. Ajay and Anil? Now here, the Anil is a non-resident. So here TDS provisions under 195 will be attracted. Ajay is a resident. Ajay is resident. So it will be covered under 194A, and it has been provided if a firm pays interest to partners, no tax is required to be deducted at source. So in case of Ajay, since he is a resident, no tax will be required to be deducted at source. So the first is no tax is required to be deducted in respect of interest payment to Mr. Anil and Mr. Ajay. For Anil, tax will be required to be deducted at source. Ajay is a resident, no tax will be required to be deducted at source. So here, next is yes, tax is required to be deducted at source in respect of payment to Anil and Ajay. No. No tax is required to be deducted at source on payment to Mr. Anil. Anil is what? A non-resident. Tax will be required to be deducted at source. So here, no tax is required to be deducted at source in respect of payment to Ajay. That is correct. But tax is required to be deducted at source in respect of payment to Anil. Since Anil is NR, tax will be required to be deducted at source, and this will be covered under the exemptions which have been provided under 194A. That is, for residents, exemption has been provided. If interest is paid to the partners, then by a firm, tax is not required to be deducted at source. Then what is the amount of interest to be allowed while computing the business income of the firm for assessment year 21-22, assuming that tax deductible at source has been deducted and deposited in time. Now here, interest which relates to a period prior to partnership deed, the same will be disallowed. So they have paid interest of 7 lakhs. 7 lakhs interest has been paid for 12 months. For April and May it will be disallowed. So 7 lakhs into 2 divided by 12, that is 1,16,667 is disallowed out of 7 lakhs. 7 lakh minus 116,667, it is 5,83,333 divided by, now for this interest has been paid at rate of 14%, only 12% is allowed. So this much amount of interest will be allowed. Divide by 14 into 12. Remaining amount which will be allowed will be 5 lakh rupees. The answer will be 5 lakh in this particular case. So this was, case scenario based MCQs. Now Mr. Anish, a resident individual, aged 45 years, sold a house property on 16/1/21. On the said transaction, he earned a LTCG of 1 crore 25 lakh 50,000 is the LTCG. Okay. And he invested a sum of 50 lakhs in capital gain bonds of 54 EC. So the investment is to be made within 6 months from the date of transfer. 50 lakhs have been invested within, say, 6 months from date of transfer. Then further he has invested 50 lakhs in same bonds on 14/6. So in aggregate, the exemption will be available to the extent of 50 lakhs only. So out of 1 crore 25 lakhs 50,000, he get an exemption of 54 EC. So taxable will be 75 lakh 50,000. Okay. Beside this, his total income, excluding LTCG, on such house property comprises of income from other source only for financial year 2021 was 1 crore and 50 lakh rupees. 1 crore and 50 lakh rupees is the other income. He does not opt for the provisions of concessional rate of tax under 115 BAC. They are asking for the compute the tax payable by him for assessment year 21-22. So his total income is what? 2 crore 25 lakh 50,000. So applicable surcharge rate will be 25%. On 75 lakh 50,000, under section 112, tax will be levied at rate of 20%. LTCG, the same is chargeable to tax at rate of 20%. So 75 lakh 50,000 into what? 20%. That is 15 lakh 10,000. Then on 1 crore 50 lakhs, applicable tax rate will be slab rate, the 1 crore 50 lakhs minus 10 lakhs, because 10 lakh will be chargeable on 10 lakh. As you are aware, we are paying tax of 1,12,500 into 30% plus 1,12,500. So it works out to be 53 lakhs 25,000. This is the tax element plus 1510 into 25% is the surcharge, that is 1708,750 will be the surcharge. It will be 85 43,750. Let us see. I think this is there is some calculation mistake here. So on 1 crore 50 lakhs minus 10 lakhs into 30%, 150,000 minus 10 lakhs into 30%, it is 42 lakh plus 1,12,500. It is tax liability is 43 lakhs 12,500. On LTCG is 15 lakh 10,000 into 25% is the surcharge. It works out to be 1455 625. It is 72 78 125 into 4% is the HEC 291 125. So it works out to be 75 lakh 69,250. So LTCG will be taxable at 20%. Other income will be taxable at slab rate. Surcharge will be levied at rate of 25% since the total income exceeds 2 crores, and then HEC. So the answer will be 75 lakh 69,250 rupees. Next is Kunal and Company LLP is engaged in manufacturing business, withdrew from bank account of 70 lakhs by cash on up to 31st of August 2020 and 55 lakhs from 1/9/2020 to 31/3/21. So in aggregate they have withdrawn from bank, and this has been withdrawn for buying agricultural produce being raw material for manufacture of finished products by it. So they are not a dealer of any agricultural produce marketing committee. They have withdrawn this amount. So now they want our TDS provisions will be applicable on such withdrawals. So they have furnished their returns in due time. So yes, in case your cash withdrawals exceeds rupees 1 crore from one or more bank account in aggregate from one or more accounts, then tax will be what? Required to be deducted at source. So here on 1 crore and 25 lakhs have been say withdrawn. So on 25 lakh rupees, tax will be required to be deducted at source at rate of 2% as they have furnished their return in time. So yes, tax will be required to be deducted by bank, and 1,25,000 rupees will be the amount of TDS. In excess of 1 crore rupees, tax will be what? Required to be deducted in this particular case. 25 into 2, 25 lakhs into 2%. 50,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees will be the amount of tax which will be required to be deducted at source. Then next question is, tax assessment of Mr. Bimal was completed on 2012-2020 and tax due was determined as 125 lakhs. Tax due has been determined as 125 lakhs. The assessee has the following: bank fixed deposits with Canara Bank, rupees 25 lakhs. Receivables from Sridhar and Company, 25 lakhs. He has gifted land to his son aged 38 years, 3 years ago, whose present market value is 22 lakhs. So here he has gifted a diamond necklace to his son's wife evidenced by a gift deed on 5/10/16, and he owns a residential apartment in London acquired 13 years ago. Now here they are asking which of the movable and immovable property can be attached. So the movable and immovable properties belonging to the assessee can be attached, and in case if the property has been transferred to minor child or son's minor child, or say spouse or son's wife, that can be attached. So here bank deposits can be attached, receivables being immovable property from Sridhar and company, the same can be attached, residential apartment can be attached, diamond necklace gifted to his son's wife can be attached, land transfer to sons, it will not be attached since he is not a minor son. So which of the following can be attached as per the provisions? Here movable and immovable properties belonging to the assessee, the same can be attached. So answer will be 1, 2, 3 and 4. So answer will be B in this regard. 1, 2, 3 and 4 can be attached. Now here next question is, two tonnage tax companies X Limited and Y Limited are amalgamated to form a new tonnage tax company Z Limited. That is a qualifying company. And the option of tonnage tax scheme of X Limited is an expired period of 8 years, and for Y Limited is 6 years. So we have seen that if there is an amalgamation of two tonnage tax companies being qualifying companies, then the option will remain in force for the maximum unexpired period of the two companies. So here the Z company can avail the option of tonnage tax scheme for a period of how many years? They are asking for what period the special provisions of tonnage tax scheme will be applicable to new company. That is for a period of 8 years. Longest unexpired period, the same will be applicable here. Then next is, Mr. Suresh is a retailer of spare parts, purchased goods from Petal LLP. Okay, he purchased goods worth 55 lakhs on 1/11/2020. Petal LLP wishes to collect tax at source from Mr. Suresh on given sale at the time of receipt of consideration. Okay, in excess of 50 lakh rupees, tax will be collected at source. In order to meet the compliance, it calls PAN of Mr. Suresh. However, Suresh only provides the Aadhaar number. Now here, since Suresh has provided the Aadhaar number, in that case either you can furnish the PAN or you can furnish the Aadhaar number. So tax will be collected at source at rate of 1%, 0.1%, now at reduced rate of 0.075% during the intervening period. Due to COVID, the rate has been reduced. Turnover of the, Petal LLP is 12 crore. Since it exceeds 10 crore rupees, tax will be required to be collected at source on the consideration in excess of rupees 50 lakhs. That is on 5 lakh rupees, it will collect tax at source. So on 5 lakhs, tax will be collected at source at rate of 0.075%. So the amount of TCS will be 375 rupees. Next is XYZ, a domestic company not opting for the provisions of BAA, has a total income of 10 crore 1 lakh for assessment year 21-22. The gross receipts in previous year 18-19 does not exceed, say, 400 crores. So here the taxation rate will be 25%. It has not opted for BAA. You are required to compute the tax liability for X Limited. So here we will be providing the concept of marginal relief is there on 10 crore 1 lakh. Tax will be levied at rate of 25%. So 10 crore 1 lakh. ₹10 crore 1 lakh. %, that is 2 crore 50 lakh 25,000. Add surcharge at rate of 12%. That works out to be 30 lakhs 3,000. The tax liability is 280 28,000. Now on 10 crores, the tax liability is how much? on 10 crore rupees, the tax liability is at rate of 25%, 2 crore 50 lakhs. Okay. And surcharge is levied at rate of 7%. So 2 crore 50 lakhs. That is 17 lakh 50,000. So it works out to be 2 crore 67 lakh 50,000. Now here the increase in income is just by rupees 1 lakh, but the liability has been increased by more than that amount. In comparison to the income 10 crore, we have to pay tax of 2 crore 67 lakh 50,000. But on 10 crore 1 lakh, our liability is increasing by more amount, so we will be providing the marginal relief. So here minus 280, 28. So this is the increase in income, tax liability, 12 lakh 78,000. So we will be providing the marginal relief of how much amount? 11 lakh 78,000. So on 2 crore 80 lakhs 28,000 is the tax. 11 lakh 78,000 will be the marginal relief. Since income has been increased by 1 lakh rupees only, but tax liability has increased by 12 lakh 78,000. So it works out to be 280 28 minus 1178. 2 crore 68 lakh 50,000. Then add HEC. Now we will be adding HEC at rate of 4%. That is 10 lakh and 74,000. So it works out to be 2 crore 79 lakh 24,000. 2 crore 79 lakh 24,000 will be the answer. So they are asking for the concept of marginal relief in this case. So by virtue of increase in income over 10 crore rupees, the tax liability must not increase by the amount of increase in income. On 10 crore, the tax liability is 267,50,000. So here on 10 crore 1 lakh, the tax liability must not increase by, say, it can increase to the extent of 1 lakh only, so 268,50,000. No marginal relief is provided for HEC. The HEC will be levied at rate of 4% and your effective liability will be 279,24,000. So these were the multiple choice questions which we have discussed, which was asked in our first test series, mock test series. So you must be conceptually clear, then you will be able to attempt these case scenario as well as these MCQs.